The Red Cow by Larry McWhorter. Almost put my rope on her once, but then I thought it through. I had my day in the sun long ago, so I left her for someone like you. Sounds to me like she run you off, I said to the silver-haired man. Why, there's ain't a cow brute anywhere too much for a hand worth his sand. We were talking about the old red cow, legend round these parts, and it's been said she'd put fear and dread in the punchiest cowboys' hearts. An old barren cow who escaped all the drives because she was big, mean, and clever. The manager said she was 12 years old. The old men said she'd been there forever. Now, legends don't scare a boy of 19 who thinks he's the pride of the nation, and I'm thinking, now if I pin this old cow, I'll sure have a good reputation. Where do I find this renegade beast, this scarlet scourge of the prairie? Why, I'd lead the hussy through the bunkhouse door. You'd think she was raised on a dairy. I'll bring her in and she'll bear a grin, 'cause she'll know that she's had her licking. For I'm a hand from the faraway land where the hoot owls romance the chickens. A gleam appeared in the old man's eye, and he was grinning a little too much. Why, I'll tell you where the red cow lives, and while you're gone, I'll carve you a crutch. Oh, and give me your address 'fore you leave. You'll want me to write your folks. I left him there to amuse hisself. I didn't care for his little jokes. The Sabbath sun caught me riding old Gus, sneaking through the brush like a ghost, till we come to the mouth of the canyon where the outlaw has been seen the most. We come upon an old dirt tank, about halfway up that draw, and standing there for her morning drink was the biggest cow I ever saw. Her horns were tipped, she wore no brand, her ears were long and slick, and I thought of a big old rhinoceros I'd seen in a Tarzan flick. Well, I knew if I showed myself to her now, back up the canyon she'd go, so I eased up high so I could drive her down, and I'd catch her in the big flat below. Well, I cinched up a notch and shook out a loop and pulled my horn knot tight. Then I eased old Gus to the edge of the brush and showed myself ready to fight. She jerked up her head when we come in the clear, and a startled look filled her eyes. I had to grin, for my little ruse caught the wily red cow by surprise. She scared and confused with no place to hide. I wrecked her psyche, I think, but she stood there, sized up her latest of pests, then calmly went back to her drink. We sat there and stared at each other a while, till the red cow had drunk her fill. Then she stretched her back and ever so slowly started walking towards me up the hill. Why, her stride betrayed no fear at all, and it was like she'd been through this before. About then I started to doubt my own smarts, and I pondered the red cow's lore. Her slow, steady walk turned into a trot, and her mouth began to foam. The closer she got, the more that I wished that me and old Gus had stayed home. The walls of that canyon somehow looked steeper, and it looked a lot narrower, too. My perception had changed a whole lot of things, and my brashness I started to rue. I made my brag back at the ranch about the worth of a man who would balk. Now I found myself fallen victim to my own yapping tongue's foolish talk. My moment of truth was on me now, and my smarts were fighting my pride. The cow was locked in on me and old Gus. Then my outlook was rectified. The boss hadn't sent me out here on this wildcat venture of such. If she didn't bother him, then why should she me? Hell, one old red cow don't eat much. 50 feet between me and the cow, another thought entered my mind. There were many like me, but this cow that I faced was one of the last of her kind. Who was I to alter her fate? Her freedom she fought long to keep. Far be it from me to ruin her life. Oh, I could pin her, but then could I sleep? I cringed at the thought of a grinning old man and the scorn I would see in his eye, but I knew I was right, so I tipped my hat as the famous red cow trotted by. The old man was waiting when I rode in, the bunkhouse door open wide. I got things ready for you and your cow. A stool and a pail stood inside. Well, he rode me hard and put me up wet, till he seen that my pride was fully peeled. But the scorn I expected he never showed. He said, "Son, I know just how you feel. You ain't the first to change his mind after doubting the red cow's lore. Few boys your age have dealt with her kind, but on her cue stick you're just one more. There comes a time in every man's life when he's forced to face his limitation. Now you feel like a fraud, but your judgment was sound. So son, you ain't no imitation. Ah, you talked a lot, but you took your shot, which is more than many have done. She force-fed you crow, but that taste we all know. So welcome to the humble ranks, son." Well, the years have gone by, and I reckon she's died. I know I never saw her again. But with all my heart, I hope that old girl never saw the inside of a pen. And though she's gone, her legend lives on, and I'm proud to be part of her lore. For times have changed, and the brood of her kind is rarely seen anymore. The young sprouts now ask me about the cow, and tight-throated I think of that day. I recall my old friend and what he told me back then. Then I grin at these pups, and I say, I almost put a rope on her once, but then I thought it through.